Welcome back to Head to Head. It's me and Johnny yet again. We're going to be rotating people in all the time. No, I found out that if you curse at the beginning of some of these videos, they demonetize it. So one of them that we couldn't make any ad revenue off of because I cursed right at the beginning of one. So now I've trained myself not to curse within the first 30 seconds of Head to Head, which we're getting close to 30 seconds, so I'll be able to curse soon. But today we are going to discuss the LA Gladiators. I think both of us can say that this is a team that we had really high expectations of coming into the year, and they just have not fulfilled that as of yet. Let's kind of set up a scenario where we are both the GMs of the Gladiators right now. We're a GM tag team duo. What's your thoughts on the roster? What's kind of the general vibe that you would have?
Oh, I mean, this is such a big topic, Matt, as well, because it's actually like systemically been pretty bad this year, where I think that their philosophy that this team has sort of envisioned and tried to adjust to, where it's like you play very aggressive, it's very much like playmaking, right? I don't think it necessarily has worked out for this roster, and I now think that you're at a point in the season where you have to review what you've been trying to do strategically and perhaps change things up, because I don't think that this style is necessarily working for the Gladiators, because they haven't looked that good when it comes to team synergy. Space and OG doesn't look like they're going to build that synergy that we talked about early in the season. Like I don't necessarily believe in that tank frontline anymore. So there's a lot of things wrong in my opinion with this roster.
I'm not a fan of huge rosters, but I think with this team, I probably would. My gut tells me to add more pieces and not really subtract some of the pieces that are currently there.
You want to add more pieces? They've already added so many, though, haven't they?
Yes,
you have like 4 damage players.
But I think I would go for players who have a little bit more chance of like a higher impact. Where I think what they've done is I actually don't hate the roster overall. I actually still kind of have confidence in this roster. They probably just need a different direction, like strategically, like you're mentioning. And I think they probably need more time. I would say any year. I mean, there can't be a worse year to try and incorporate a larger group of new players than this one. Considering you've had limited time to get in the same room and practice, everybody's playing remote, everybody's online. It's very difficult to kind of build that synergy when you're not having that type of communication, direct communication daily in terms of like in person. So I think you can write off some of the poor play to that. And I think, honestly, with the way I look at Overwatch League as a whole, it's just about acquiring talent overall as a roster. Because if you acquire talent, and even if you find out, 4 or 5 months from now you don't need it, you just sell them to somebody else. Because half the teams just got roster spaces.
It's very optimistic of you, man.
Half these teams got roster spaces that are open that would die to have some of these players. Look at you think the Shock had a tough time sending an Architect off to somebody? Hell no. There are probably the dozens of teams who are like, yeah, we'll take Architect. Like, if Vancouver actually sat down and said, okay, we're going to start trading some of these players, they would have been able to trade all of them. Like,
okay, but how does this relate to the LA Gladiators, Matt?
So because I think they have talent.
That they should just sign. Okay, you think they have talent, right?
I do. I think Shaz and Big Goose have been proven in the past to be able to withstand multiple metas and play well. I think this year, for what I assume, because we don't really know, right? We're not on the inside of these teams, is that they just have not been able to get on the same page with all these new people and players strategically. You also you're adding they've added 4 DPS players, right? Because they
have 4 DPS players. They have Birdring,
but they're all new.
Mirror, Jaru, and Kevster.
They're all new.
They're all new, yes, for this year.
The tank line, all new. I don't think you could have and this team, mind you, came together kind of late. Like, it wasn't like if I remember correctly, this was a roster that like wasn't really announced first. They were trialing a ton of people. It was like the rumors of it.
October, November-ish.
Yeah, so you assume they probably were already kind of in agreement like a month or two earlier than that, but still the holidays, you don't have a ton of time to practice, and there's no synergy already. So now
I think you're making a lot of excuses here. So let me take my stance, okay? So first of all, okay, it has been a weird year, okay? And that is going to impact your performance. And there's also going to be a lot of things that probably has happened, you know, with the LA Gladiators, where there's like practice situation or like things that we necessarily don't know about. So both you and me, Matt, I mean, we're doing this by paper. Like I test with the matches and then their roster on paper, and like we don't necessarily have that insight. So there could be things going on in the background that we doesn't necessarily know about and can't really analyze, if that makes any sense. But I think that you're being very optimistic here, because I think you can also take the stance that this is a team that has signed a lot of talent. I mean, you traded Decay out of all players.
That one doesn't look good right now.
Maybe he didn't want to be on the roster, okay? Maybe there was some conversation there about how Decay wanted to move on to a new team. But still, has OG like lived up to that? I know you did a head-to-head on that, but I don't think OG has necessarily slotted into this team the way you expected it to.
And I think if I was the Gladiators, this is obviously not the popular opinion, but I probably would have done that deal as they did it. Because I just viewed it was way harder to find a main tank in the offseason as quality as OG than it was to find a damage dealer. Look at all the damage dealers we've seen come into the league this year and play well. Shockwave just rolled up off the street 2 weeks ago, and he's all right. You have players on benches elsewhere who would be starters on a lot of teams. Think of like Erster, right? Like he's just kind of sat around doing nothing. You have Libero sat around doing nothing. How many main tanks are starter quality just sitting around doing nothing? I mean, there really aren't that many.
Okay, but it hasn't worked out for this team, because I think that the front line has not built the synergy required for this to actually become a pretty consistent
now that we've seen it, but at the time,
but that's the point. What I'm saying is that, you know, maybe it's actually time that you look at this roster and say like, hey, what has worked, what hasn't worked, and like where can we make changes? Because I've reviewed the footage. And I don't think that Space and OG has yelled like this tank duo that we really wanted
Space has been sick. Space is always good.
Oh yeah, Space has been really good. But I'm questioning OG's integration to this team, because I look at the stats of Reinhardt and Winston. Okay, fantastic. Statistically, his main tank skills are up there. But if you look at the eye test, the synergy quite isn't there. Specifically when he plays Orisa. And I'm wondering whether that will either get fixed sometime in the near future, or will they have to play LH Cloudy and is flanking Reinhardt all the time? No. Like, this cannot be the style that you're going for with this team that has so much talent. You can't just lean back to cheese strats.
You know what?
And yes, that is a cheese strat, okay? You can say that, what is the strategy? You know, we get the wins, etc. No, it's cheese, okay? It's not fundamentally a good foundation to build a team on.
I don't think they, like, I'll still defend at the time, you know, trading a damage dealer for a starting quality main tank. I think, and look, we've seen OG be good in the past, right? He was he's sick.
Individually, yes. But can they as a team?
Yes. So where I think I would have opted to do something different in the offseason is I would have kept Surefour. I think Surefour in combination with Big Goose and Shaz were really a lot of like the shot calling, controlling the game. We know that Surefour has a pretty good relationship with OG as well. They seem to be buddies, you know, always like tweeting all of the time. I think you would have been able to incorporate like Birdring, Space, and OG much easier if Surefour was on the roster, because you're keeping like 3 essential players from the year past. And Surefour is a player who, a very smart damage dealer, has a good game sense. You would have been able to make things work, I think, faster and easier having him still on the roster.
So I disagree with that. I actually don't think that Surefour would have been a good fit on this team. And I actually think that on paper, the LA Gladiators have a really good roster, okay? I would just retool how this team communicates and how they approach the game. And I would go away from this very loose, aggressive playstyle that they have now, where there's a lot of shot callers and, you know, they look for a lot of plays and try to go aggressive. And sometimes they feed, as David Pace said himself. Like, sometimes that happens, okay? But you got to fix those mistakes. I would move away from that and try to have a stricter playstyle in place and make your primary shot callers someone like Big Goose and Space, and then lean back on those two to lead the front line and to track all the ultimates, etc. And then you can go from there. And then you can put in Birdring and you can lead on him to be your hit scan player. And then you can even have someone like Kevster, who's primarily known for hit scan, actually bring out the Genji, which was pretty decent in the Summer Showdown. Yeah. And you can sort of build that core of the team. Does OG fit in with those other 5 players, in my opinion? I think that is the big question. And again, I'm not criticizing OG's individual skill. We know he's amazing, but is he the right fit for the LA Gladiators? That is the question that I want to figure out the answer for the rest of the season.
I think in time he will be. I think we've seen enough from OG to know that he's a good player. I almost kind of bucket him as like Sado. Like, I was pretty high and confident on Sado, and we hadn't seen him play like tremendous. It was up and down, but you knew he had enough individual talent that he was gonna figure it out, right? And we've seen Sado play well on heroes that we haven't seen him play well in on the past this year, obviously. But they've upgraded the roster around him, right? He's playing now with Alarm, and he's playing with Bunny Astro and Fury, right? They've upgraded the roster around him, but he has talent. I think finding a main tank that has that individual skill and talent is very difficult. And I don't think you move on from that after 14 games of play.
Let me ask one more question here.
Yeah.
Do you think that OG will find the most success in his career on the LA Gladiators, or would you like to see him move on to perhaps a team like the Seoul Dynasty? Because I'm starting to think that maybe if things don't work out for the rest of the season, that OG should look to play in an all-Korean team instead and try to move on from this Dallas Fuel and LA Gladiators part of his career.
You just don't know where we would fit in. Like
Washington Justice. I said it. No, I'm kidding. But I'm not really kidding. I don't know.
It's an upgrade, but I mean, do you want to go there? I don't know. And I don't know how many teams he would realistically get that type of scenario. Seoul Dynasty, what is he going to go be the third main tank with Marvel, Gesture, and him?
Okay, Marvel has not played the main tank, and Gesture,
right, but we know that Marvel's a main tank playing Sigma for whatever reason.
Yeah,
on the off tank
it's
role,
a
playing
mess.
Divas,
Okay,
it's a mess. Where is he like an upgrade? Like one interesting shot. Would he be an upgrade over Fate or Karian? And
that is a good shout. I would arguably say that Fate is a good shot.
And he could be coached by Kuki, who was a tank in the past, right? And he can fit in. Like, I think OG's aggressive, like Winston's type of playstyle with a player like Yaki would work.
Yeah. I mean, there are some teams and some ideas you can throw around here. My point is essentially that I'm starting to get over the idea that OG
but here's the thing, though.
Half Western teams.
If we're talking about OG going to Seoul or Florida and making an impact, those teams are already better than the Gladiators. So does that tell you it's more of an issue with the rest of the Gladiators than it is OG?
Well, I mean, I think it's a team issue. Like I've said, I think that it actually comes down to synergy and play style and shot calling structure. And my question is, for the remainder of the season, will OG adapt to a proper shot calling system here? Because I think that they need to move away from this aggressive shot calling thing and put pillars in place. And I don't think that OG is one of those pillars.
Yeah.
So could someone like OG just like listen to Space and his shot calling instead?
Because I'm trying to think.
I think they have a few things to figure out.
When he was on Dallas, they were not like a particularly aggressive team, I would say.
Well, they were inconsistent.
Right.
I think sometimes he was like, look, don't get me wrong. Individually, OG has an incredible Winston, and a good Reinhardt. Okay.
I was just gonna say we haven't had a chance.
As a team.
We haven't had a chance to see him play Winston all year, and that's by far his best hero.
Yeah, they did play the bit in the Melee, and he actually looks sick on it. Like, so fantastic on it.
He's been forced onto Orisa, which I think it's very easy for tanks to look bad on Orisa, and it's very difficult for them to look good and impactful. We could watch a ton of odds on tanks, and it would be minuscule the way that you describe a good Orisa versus a bad Orisa, and a lot of it is just down to team play around it.
Yeah, but where's the team play then?
Well, we're gonna blame him, the whole team.
They looked lost in the Summer Showdown, mate.
I don't know.
Time to change things up. Look, DP, You know, he can change things up. He probably has changed things up. You know, we haven't really seen them since the Summer Showdown. So maybe he'll change up how the LA Gladiators play. But I have my questions and I have my concerns. And that is essentially what I'm trying to say here, Matt. That, you know, they have a lot of good talent on paper. Can they make something of it? I know what
D-Pay can do to make them better.
Don't say it.
He can like and subscribe the channel and tune in for more head-to-heads. And we need to know from you, D-Pay, in the comments below, what do you think about the Gladiators? Don't tell everybody. Don't tell everybody. You can just message us on the side. I don't want you in the comments because the comments, they'll go crazy. Let us know, though, what you guys would do if you were the GM of the Gladiators for a day in the offseason. I don't think they're that far away. I think they need more time. I think they have the talent. They just kind of need to find a style that works for them. Johnny, he would ship everybody out and get a bunch of Swedish players in there if it was up to him.
No, come on, dude.
Tune in for more head-to-head next time. See you later.